conversation, though. Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I am your host, BA, along with James Martin and Jack Hirsch. I hope you gentlemen are doing good this fine morning. In a sense that we got good debate questions this morning because everything is like right on time. And one of the first questions that we're going to ask is dealing with the Olympics. And congratulations to the women's hockey team for winning gold. Today or tomorrow, the men's hockey team will be playing Canada for the gold. So that'll be an interesting matchup. And we'll get into more of that tomorrow on the Sunday Sports Podcast. All right. So the first question this morning is going to be, what should be more important to the NHL player, winning the Stanley Cup or a gold medal in the Olympics? Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, if this were the NBA, it would be a very easy answer. They'd want to win an NBA championship to ring over gold medal. In cases in point, it would be Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing, who never won an NBA title. But they've won gold medals in the Olympics. They were part of the dream team. But if they had a chance to trade that Olympic gold medal for the NBA ring, they want the NBA ring. Stanley Cup and Olympic gold medal are bit different. There's a little more patriotism, I think, for hockey players. It's hard to explain. Maybe because the NBA players were so overpowering. For years, they were virtually guaranteed to win because they were so much better. Like going back to the Dream Team, the competition was a joke. I mean, how can you be jumping up and down, celebrating something that's completely inevitable? But in hockey, it's never inevitable. And I think back to certain teams that won Stanley Cups, like the New York Rangers in 1994 when they broke a decades-long drought. And the celebration they had in New York holding the Stanley Cup up, and you compare to those guys winning Olympic gold medals, I just think these players in the NHL who are playing in the Olympics, who played in the Olympics for years, and they have a choice, one or the other, especially the ones who never won a Stanley Cup championship. I think that's what they would prefer. And keep in mind, they're with their teammates for a lot longer period of time during the regular season than they are for the Olympics. For the Olympics, you're given, I assume, a few weeks to train together. You take a leave of absence from the NHL season. And, if you gave them a truth pill, I think they'd absolutely say the Stanley Cup, one or the other. But if you ask them at this moment while the Olympics are going on, they'll say, oh, it's the greatest thrill representing your country. And it is a big thrill to them. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think anything compares to parading around holding the Stanley Cup, because since these players were little kids, that's what they talked about, the Stanley Cup. That would be a big thing following their team, seeing the cup paraded around the ice. They didn't think of Olympic medals per se, but the Stanley Cup is something they'd always thought of. So I believe it would be more important to an NHL player winning a Stanley Cup, championship as opposed to winning a gold medal in the Olympics.
Well, I mean, the gold medal, winning a Stanley Cup, you're going to have an opportunity to win that every year that you're in the league. Every year that you're in the league, but you only have an opportunity. It's more elusive. 4 years, every 4 years, and you're not guaranteed to even make the team. So it's really probably more of, I would say, like that hidden treasure, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's something that it's rarefied air. I mean, you probably have a lot more opportunity to win the Stanley Cup if you have a career, let's say a 10 or 13-year career. Your average is going to be a lot higher to be able to obtain that Stanley Cup. But to get that gold medal, like you said, it's the patriotism of the situation might be a lot more intriguing for a player to try to obtain and to get gold, which the U.S. has that opportunity. When's the last time we've done this? I mean, it's been a long time, right? Yes. So I know these guys. You could see that right now. I mean, they shellacked I can't even pronounce the name. Who was 6-2? What was the name of the team?
Slovakia.
Yeah, thank you.
Slovakia.
Slovakia. Thank you.
I couldn't pronounce words.
Yes, right. It's Czech and Slovakia have separated, so it's Slovakia.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly. So they gave them the business, man, and I know they're considered the underdogs right now in U.S., but they have an opportunity to do something great here, and that's what you want to have. You want to be able to say, okay, I got that gold medal, and not many people on the list, or at least in the last 20 or so years, can say that they've done that, right? When's the last time the U.S. has won
That
gold?
might be a better way of putting it, James. If a player's already won a Stanley Cup, maybe it's the Olympic gold medal. Let's say they've won neither, and they can only have one in their career. That's maybe a better way of putting it. It's for all the marbles. Only one. Yeah, only one. A guy who has a 15-year career, let's say playing in the NHL.
Yeah. So if it's like that, I mean, look, you're talking about hoisting up something that's the size of a transmission for an F-150. It's a big trophy. I mean, I like the fact. I remember Mac brought this up a long time ago. I think we talked about the which trophy was better. You remember that, Jack? We talked about the Lombardi, which championship trophy was better. And
Yeah,
I
vaguely,
I
yeah.
I I do remember everybody talking about the Stanley Cup being like probably the best to hoist up, and because of the size, the sheer size, and the idea that all those guys, what they do. I mean, I think they celebrate for like 7 days or something like that with it.
It's all perception. Remember the basketball player Kendall Gill? He boxed
Yes.
he boxed professionally for a while. It didn't quite work out, but they asked him once and he never won a championship in the NBA, but to my knowledge, but they asked him if you have a choice to be a world champion in boxing or have the NBA ring, which would you pick? And I kind of like this answer. He said, if it could be heavyweight champion of the world, I pick that. But if it's under heavyweight, then I want the NBA ring. That was Kendall Gill's answer. So I
That's
guess
interesting.
maybe it was unfair for me to say 15-year career. Well, what happens if a player can only stick in the NHL for 2 years? Is the Stanley Cup as important because you're not chasing it as long? So maybe what the
Right.
Olympic gold and an Olympic gold medal you can showcase a little more, wear it around your neck as opposed to not having the Stanley Cup or just having a chance to hold it or possess it for just a very short amount of time.
I just think the allure of going to the Olympics and how hard it is to get there, and it's almost like a mountain that you can climb once but every 4 years, and if you get there, and to actually obtain the ultimate prize and the gold medal is probably, to me, at just a smidge, just a little bit of an edge to obtaining that versus having actually the Stanley Cup. So I would
Okay,
go with the gold medal.
one Olympics. I'm just going to detour a tiny bit. Think of Carmelo Anthony now. He's never gone to an NBA Finals, let alone win a championship. And he hears about it. He thinks about it. But he's won 3 Olympic gold medals, 3 separate Olympics. If he had a chance to trade in the 3 gold medals for 1 NBA championship, he'd say, no, I'd never do it. Of course, he would say that. But, deep down, you kind of feel he would.
I mean, you got to look at the Stanley Cup, too. The Stanley Cup is a historic kind of a trophy. It's got names of players that have won the Stanley Cup back in the 50s and the 40s and stuff like that. I mean, they add a ring just about every time they have a Stanley Cup. So that's more of a historic thing if you're going to go on a trophy level. That's why it's a coveted. That's why the cup is coveted, because it's got so many names on it from yesteryear. Whereas, Super Bowl one is, it's cool. You want to win the Super Bowl. It's the football on top of a, stand. Okay. And the NBA trophy is a basketball on top of a stand. I mean, still, it's just, those are plain, but at the same time, to me, it's hard to attain either one of them. So when you have the chance to win one, good morning, Richard. When you have a chance to win one, it's a great experience. No matter if it's the gold medal or a championship. It's hard to attain either one of those. There's a lot of players that have neither one of those and have been playing for a long time. Got to look at that too. So, I don't know if one outweighs the other. I think that if you're a professional player, that you would want to win your championship in the professional sports that you play. The gold medal is kind of like a bonus because you get chosen for one, and you're playing for your country too. So that's a bonus. I don't know if it's going to be important. That's a really hard. I guess it depends on the individual, to tell you the truth, because I don't know which one would be.
But what's more iconic? I'm going to throw it back at you, Brian. Take the city of Detroit and take the greatest individual player in his sport. And I don't mean to be funny, James. Isaiah Thomas, greatest player in Piston history. We could agree on that, can we? Isaiah Thomas. Gordie Howe, greatest player in Red Wing history. Basketball is more popular than hockey, I believe, in Detroit. Okay.
No.
Who's truly more iconic? And this isn't a put down of Isaiah, who's great. Don't misunderstand me. Who's more iconic? And let's include baseball while we're at it. Let's even include Barry Sanders in football. Is there anyone more iconic than Gordie Howe? You think of it, he's kind of truly the most legendary Detroit player of all time. So
I think if you're, as far as iconic goes, Barry Sanders does it of any of them, period. That's the dude's got a statue in front of Ford Field. So, I mean, he's
modern,
number one.
He's more modern. Keep that in mind.
Well, he's not more modern than Isaiah Thomas. They played around the same time. Well, pretty much the same time. And
I might go by Isaiah, actually.
Gordie Howe. Let's keep it to so Gordie Howe. If we're going to keep it in the same time frame, basically, Steve Yzerman is an icon in this city too. And Steve Yzerman was the captain for the Red Wings when they were winning their Stanley Cups and stuff like that. So he's more. Gordie is the old OG, okay, of the icons. But Steve Yzerman is the guy that represents the Red Wings. People currently know as representing the Red Wings. You got to be an OG like you, Jack, to appreciate Gordie Howe. And we don't have any, because the youth has gathered. Now Steve Yzerman, Barry Sanders, and Isaiah are becoming OG, because people don't really remember them anymore. So the icons, though.
You mean Isaiah's lost some lust in Detroit? I can't believe that.
No, I mean, he's still up there. No, he's still up there. I mean, again, you got to understand that because of the times changing and the years going by, there's a whole different fan base. So, like right now, you got people that are edged on Barry Sanders, haven't seen Barry Sanders, but they've seen Calvin Johnson play. So they can't, they put him above Barry Sanders because they haven't seen Barry Sanders play, even though they have a bunch of YouTube to show. And it's the same thing with Isaiah. I mean, really, Isaiah's kind of be a stalwart in Pistons basketball because Chauncey, Joe Dumars might be close to that. But and in baseball, you got Verlander coming back. So he's always been a stalwart here. Kirk Gibson. So, I mean, you got plenty to choose from in the baseball field. Al Kaline is basically the OG that represents that. But anyway, the point of the matter is it depends on the individual player on how they feel about winning a Stanley Cup or a gold medal in the Olympics. It's an individual choice. I think both are just as exciting to win as anything else. But, yeah, I couldn't put one over the other. All right. Anyway. Next question. Who is more likely to have a consecutive title run, the Seattle Seahawks or the OKC Thunder? James, go for
it. Okay, so this is a really good question you present, Jack. I think both teams are extremely talented. That's which one you have to have significant talent to be able to repeat and chemistry. And they all have, all the players on this team. I mean, you're looking at basketball, it's more considered, stars versus the NFL considered, more of a team effort because you have a significant amount of players that are on the field at once. But saying that, it's going to be difficult for Seattle to run it back a little bit slightly, but I think I'm going to give the edge to them. Because right now, as much as people think like, okay, they're going to lose a lot of players, they're going to lose a lot of guys on their team, they have cap space. They have $61 to approximately $73 million in cap space. So you can actually add a lot of guys on. You could probably add free agents on. You can retain the guys that you have on the team. Specifically, we're talking about their defensive backs. Almost all of them are going to be gone except Devin Witherspoon, which is the most important one, I think, right now. He's currently on a rookie contract, and 27 would be a fifth-year option for them. So they're going to exercise that. So you got one guy locked up right now. But Kobe Bryant, Josh Jobe, and Rick Woolen are all unrestricted free agents on their defensive side. And I think they're probably going to let Rick Woolen, test the market and go. And they might obviously retain the other two guys and add maybe somebody like Alontae Taylor from New Orleans, who's a former second-round pick. And he had a really good season under Brandon Staley with the Saints. So it's just somebody like that they may add. And then retaining Sam Darnold. A lot of people are not really talking about him. I know we're talking about Kenneth Walker III and whether or not he's going to stay or go. I think he should stay. I think he may stay, but because I know Charbonnet is hurt right now, and you don't really have running back depth, and they only have 4 draft picks, 1, 2, and 3, which are the most important, and 6 in 2026 draft. So one of those has to be running back, I would think, and probably a day 2 draft pick, as albeit they won't be able to obtain the services of Jeremiah Love or somebody like that. But that being said, I think they will try to keep Kenneth Walker, and if they don't, then I know for sure they're going to keep Sam Darnold, and I think Walker can be replaced with another. Although he had the best run in the playoffs for a running back since Marshawn Lynch, for that franchise. So, but again, I'm going to go. I think talking about OKC right now, what scares me is that their best players are dealing with injuries right now. We're talking about the former MVP who's in the running for MVP and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's averaging 31.8 points a game. But I don't know, man. They may have a struggle as good as that team is. And Jalen Williams is dealing with hamstring issues as well this late into the season. That's kind of scary. But I'm pretty sure they'll bounce back. But their Achilles heel as a team has been San Antonio. San Antonio has that number. They haven't beaten San Antonio once this season. San Antonio has had their number, and if they're in a 7-game series, I think that would be the only team that might have their number in the playoffs to beat them seven, 4 times out of 7 games. Which probably will push all 7. But man, they haven't won not one game against this team. So they're like their kryptonite if they're considered Superman. San Antonio is their kryptonite right now. So I'm going to give the edge to the Seattle Seahawks right now.
You got to look at the nature of the sport. You make a good argument. Maybe you should be a GM, in football, because you have all these moving pieces back and forth. You know who you want to sign, who you don't. You're a couple of steps ahead of me in that regard. I'm much more generic. I could just basically say, yeah, Seattle already made up their mind. They're letting Kenneth Walker go because they're not franchising him unless he decides he wants to stay bad enough. He'll take a little less money, which, let's face it, is unlikely. So you look at the nature of the sports. We hear that every year in the NFL. A team wins the championship and they're favored to repeat. And it's so rare that they do. The Chiefs did it a couple of years ago. But when is it done? Even the great Chicago Bear team, 1985, wasn't back the following year. It just hardly happens in football. In basketball, you're more likely to go on a run. I know they're struggling a little bit, OKC now. You pointed out why they were struggling, injuries, so on. But believe me, they're peaking for the playoffs. They're getting ready for the playoffs. They're managing any injuries, ailments, so they're going to be fine for the playoffs. And as far as San Antonio being their Achilles heel, yeah, perhaps that's correct in a 7-game series. You have to give San Antonio certainly a reasonable chance of beating OKC. It could go either way in a 7-game series. But, OKC is going to be the number 1 seed. Chances are that San Antonio might have to go through Denver. And chances are San Antonio wouldn't beat Denver in the playoffs, and that would clear the path much easier for OKC. And then if OKC gets in the finals, who's scaring you in the East? No offense, Brian, but your Detroit Pistons I doubt if they beat OKC if they get to the finals. And the Pistons might get to the finals. That's one of the great sports stories. What was it, 3 years ago? They were doormats, the Pistons. How did they become so good? And Cade Cunningham, how did he become so great? But that's another thing. And who knows who's going to get to the finals in the East? It might be the Knicks. It might be the Celtics. Whoever it's going to be, or Detroit, or maybe someone else. I don't think they're going to beat OKC in the finals. So I think the path is much easier. Seattle's still going to have to deal with a lot of competition. They're going to have to deal with the Rams, who are ready to make a great run next year. The Seahawks could barely get by the Rams last year. And, other teams are going to be bouncing back. Are the Bears going to be better? Are the Packers going to be better? Are the Lions finally going to put it all together and finally get to that elusive Super Bowl? What about the Eagles? And there are a couple more teams I could mention, of course. I think it's just a little harder to repeat in the NFL because of the nature of the competition as opposed to the NBA, because one player could play lights out and he could conceivably carry a team. But I don't see any one player unseating OKC. I don't see Wemby stepping up and doing more. I don't see Anthony Edwards, stepping up and turning into the next Michael Jordan and depriving OKC. So I think OKC has a better shot at repeating as champions than Seattle.
I'm put to you like this. Seattle, to me, okay, nobody even thought they were going to be in a Super Bowl this year, okay, as well as New England. So just based on that fact, I don't understand why people think they're just going to automatically repeat with the team that they had. Not now, you got to knock off the man. You got to beat the man. You got to knock off the man. To what James says, but at the same time, I'm not looking at a Seattle team that could repeat. I just don't. I think they got good. They were good this year. They surprised some teams. Their defense played exceptionally well, but to do that 2 years in a row, that's kind of hard in today's format in the NFL. Whereas OKC, they have a team. They have a young team, and they can basically put together games to win and get to that point. They're the best team in the, they're having trouble. You guys said they're having trouble. They're still the best team in the NBA right now with the troubles that they're having, even with the gaps that they're having with San Antonio. But I'd probably rather have those indecisions with San Antonio because it's only one team. I mean, they might likely see San Antonio in the playoffs, but they might not.
And let's not forget that they're only 3 games ahead of San Antonio. So I mean they're the best team, but by maybe a nose. I mean, so San Antonio is right there. San Antonio has depth. They have a lot of good players that are starting and that on the bench as well. I just think that I get what you're both saying in regards to how hard it is to repeat in the NFL, but the infrastructure of the Seattle Seahawks right now, like you said, nobody saw them coming. I didn't see them coming. I'll be honest with you. You have a head coach that had one of the best defenses in the league, if not the best. They had, I think they were best in scoring. He is the architect of that. That you can't get any better than that, man. And if you can retain, and he got the best out of DeMarcus Lawrence, former, All Pro in Dallas, and he's 33. And so you got I think that defensive line, man, where it's at is you got all those interchanging parts that are there. Everybody stay fresh. It kind of remind me of that defense in 07 of the New York Giants when they played against the Patriots. That bonded offense, that team was just incredible. Nobody expected the Giants to win. They're better than the Giants. This team is better than the Giants. Sam Darnold, to me, in 2025 season, played a much better season than Eli Manning. So it's not like he's just, went on a run or anything like that. You just saw 2 years in a row, Sam Darnold has excelled. He's become more of closer to elite in regards to his play. We talked about him failing at the end in 24 when he was when he was in the last game of the season, to be able to try to obtain a number 1 seeding, and he couldn't. He failed. I mean, and of course, when he played in the playoffs, they got knocked off in the first round. But he's overcome that, and now you're going to pay him upwards of maybe 30 to 32 million a year. Is it deserving? Yes, I think so. I think he's showed that he's becoming in that level, that upper tier, almost
That's not the
top 10 quarterback.
money for quarterbacks. Actually, he'd be underpaid getting the money that they're going to give him. Yeah,
Yes.
but they have a contract. He has no choice in the matter. But in all fairness, those last 2 games of Sam Darnold with the Vikings, Troy Aikman knows a lot about quarterbacking than you and I, and Brian, of course. And Troy Aikman was exasperated with how bad Sam Darnold was. His decision making, his poise, and Troy Aikman never says flat out a guy's been awful, but Troy Aikman kept saying his money is going down that he's going to get. It was dwindling. Those 2 games really hurt his marketability badly.
And I agree. Look, I hold me say this, and then I'll let you go. I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Good players have bad moments. I mean, and you're right. He lost a lot of money there, but he rebounded. I mean, he rebounded. I would imagine Troy Aikman wouldn't say anything about him now because he didn't give you anything even the game he had against, I think, was it against the Rams in the early part of the season? Someone when he threw like 4 or 5 interceptions.
Three or four interceptions.
But he still rebounded from that. They came back and won the game. So I just think that I think they have an infrastructure that's set up to where they look like they can repeat at least one time. So that's just my pick, and I'll leave it at that.
I mean, the thing about football and basketball, though, football, you're more apt to have injuries to key positions at the wrong time of the year. I mean, the Lions have gone through that a lot of times too, but basketball is more. I mean, you can get serious injuries in basketball too, but I think it's at a lesser rate than football because it's not as a physical sport. You're running up and down. You get a lot of ACL injuries and ankle injuries and stuff like that. And in basketball, you don't necessarily get, full contact injuries. So I just think that OKC is put together. They put together a really solid OKC team that can win championships, for the next couple of years, if that's the case. If they have good coaching, they're going to figure out a way to beat San Antonio. They have good enough players to understand that process. They have the MVP. I mean, who right now do you think in the league is the MVP for in the NBA? Do you think it's still Shea Butter?
Oh, SGA, yeah,
somebody
sure.
else. Yeah. So I mean, there you go, right there. I mean, if people were talking about that with Cade Cunningham, I said no, Shea still. He's still the MVP. I don't care how, Cade's got to have a terrific. I mean, he's got to be playing out of his mind to win the MVP at this point to me. So I would say, yeah, okay.
Oh, that's a debate for another time because think of all the great players and remove them all from their team. Which teams can survive the best? Maybe they're not quite a championship team, but do they fall apart completely? Did the Knicks fall apart without Jalen Brunson, for example? Did it, how are the Timberwolves affected without Anthony, Edwards? Without Wemby there, does San Antonio have a prayer? It's a hard one. Really hard, to say who the MVP is. It's so subjective.
I mean, I think everyone's going to want to see in the playoffs San Antonio versus OKC because you got organically like several great players on both sides, on both teams, but Wemby plus Harper plus De'Aaron Fox plus Stephon Castle. That's what's the guy's name that played for the Warriors? He's like a 3-point shooter. I can't think of it.
When we finish this part of the debate, I want Brian to transition into the basketball. Continue with the basketball next because it's a good segue.
Yeah.
I will say this, James. If San Antonio wins the NBA championship, they beat OKC in the playoffs. Not only is OKC not repeating, you're talking about rebooting the team. Because if they can't beat them now, they're not going to. OKC's not beating them next year the way they're set up. So they're going to have to make some adjustments because San Antonio might be going on a run of winning like 3 NBA titles in the next 4 years or something like that. So OKC is going to have. They can't just run it back with the same guys next year. They're going to somehow have to make some type of deal. I don't know what it would be. Obviously
it's going to be hard.
Chet Holmgren, I would think would be off limits, but everyone else, I think would be open game.
For all intents and purposes, at some point they're going to change things because under the current CBA structure with the aprons, those guys their count against the apron is going to start I think next season. It's going to start next season. They got those big contracts, all 3 of those guys.
But James, can you imagine OKC gets eliminated in the playoffs and then in the off season they work out a deal with Milwaukee, with Chet Holmgren going to Milwaukee, Giannis going to OKC? Something like that. And Milwaukee would maybe make that deal if they could get a talent like Chet Holmgren.
That changes everything, but I think, and I think OKC will give it up as well because they're not only going to give up Chet Holmgren, they're also going to give some draft capital as well. to match up. Because Holmgren is a talent, but he's not. Let's not
He's
get
not
out of
Giannis.
hand here. He's not Giannis. But with that said,
He's young.
that would present a better matchup with San Antonio. But look. I saw this kid at the All-Star game, and I mean, look, we're not talking about a lot of challenge, but we're talking about Wembanyama. He challenged everybody. Like, he came out there, he wasn't playing. It was no just lollygagging and shooting around. He came out, played defense, did everything. So I see in him, this is somebody who's very competitive, and his size and what he can do from all angles of the court. And then you have those other guys that play with him. It's just pretty scary. I at this point in the season, they're going to be a scary matchup against OKC, because OKC again has not won a game against them. You play to win the game, like Coach Herm says. You got to win at some point, and they haven't done it. They haven't figured it out against this team. To me, I think it's just more dominance overall as a whole team. I mean, SGA is one of the best players, if not the best player in the NBA, but Jalen Williams is supposed to be a Scottie Pippen. I mean, if he's Jordan, he's supposed to be a Scottie Pippen, and he's been hurt, and he's off and on. He's only averaging like 17 points a game, and so I'm just like, okay, I think health has to be a factor in order for them to really present a challenge for San Antonio. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. I know we're on something else here.
Yeah, so sticking with the NBA, should the Los Angeles Lakers be hesitant to put LeBron James on the bench late in games because he's a liability on defense? Go ahead, Jack.
You play to win the game. Like James quoted Herm Edwards, one of my favorite guys. I mean, Herm Edwards is a great guy. You could stop him on the street, while he was a head coach, and say, Herm, could I talk with you about football for a minute? He would actually stop and talk football with you. You got to love a guy who has no ass about him. Great person and a decent coach. He didn't quite get to where, we hoped he would get, but, a really good guy. You have to make unpopular moves. You have to make them. How intimidated are you of LeBron James if you're a coach? If the owner has your back, you make the move. LeBron James in his prime, you absolutely don't make the move. We're talking about the LeBron James of today. We're not talking about the all-time great LeBron James. And if he's not a liability on defense, he certainly is a negative. I mean, at the very least, if not a major liability. And to have him and Luka on the floor together, and you need to stop. And it's gone to the point where Luka is the better player now between the two. At this point in time, Luka's better. Luka's the main guy, your main option, if you're the Lakers. And LeBron is still very good. You can make an argument with LeBron, and a good argument, he's a top 20 player still in the NBA. You can make that argument, I think. The numbers are there. In spurts, he's the old LeBron. But do you really want him guarding someone late in the game? And it's not insulting to LeBron. Was it insulting to Shaq to take him out late in games because Shaq couldn't make a foul shot? And that's another issue, too, with LeBron. He's not exactly the most confident foul shooter, but that's another issue. But you got to deal with big egos. You got to deal with Rich Paul, who's, a great, representative of LeBron. Look, I'd love for Rich Paul to represent me if I were an athlete. He's just doing his job, but it's a gutsy decision. And if you're J.J. Redick, it becomes harder because LeBron James was your good buddy, your good pal who pushed for you to get the job. You did a podcast with LeBron James, if J.J. Redick did. So now LeBron James would consider it like you betrayed his friendship. But you have to do it late in the game. You have to do it. And the only way LeBron James wouldn't get upset about it, if you put Bronny James in on defense for a stop at the end of the game, you sit LeBron down, he might even have a little smile on his face. If Bronny ever developed into a lockdown defender, which some people projected him to be, but it's still a bit away from that if he's ever going to get close to that. You have to do it. You have to, because he is a liability on defense late in games only. Late in games when you need a stop.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I would just pause. I was going to go ahead. I was just thinking about Jack and talking about taking arguably the one or two of the greatest NBA players and putting them on the bench that can still play at an elite level offensively uh, at 41 on the bench in late in games. Look, I understand. Look, I mean, it's sometimes I cringe when I see LeBron just let a guy go straight to the basket, because he doesn't push forth an effort on defense. To me, and what I've read also, it's not that LeBron can't play defense. LeBron can still play defense at a good level. He just can't do it consistently. He's 41. And I think some of that is probably being reserved for later in the playoffs. They're still in a playoff run. I mean, they still have an opportunity. Obviously, they're going to be in the playoffs. Either they're maybe the fourth seed in the West. I think somewhere around there, the fourth or fifth. They're going to be in the playoffs. This is where you see LeBron play. If you sit down LeBron on the bench, who are you putting in his place? That's the question. Who do you have defensively that's going to take his place and can be a playmaker at the end of the game outside of Luka, outside of Reeves, the AR? How outside of putting those guys in the game, who are you going to put in the bench? I mean, take off the bench and put in LeBron's place to be a clutch playmaker outside of those two guys. I don't think anyone, because both those guys, like you said, LeBron and Luka on the court at the same time in the last minute, they're not playing great defense. They're not known. Well, LeBron was known for that, but Luka has never been known for that, and AR is not known for that as well. So you just have to. It's just what you have right now. At the end of the day, LeBron James is probably not going to be he probably either next year is his last year, which I'm leaning toward the second decision of LeBron James's career probably will be to retire after next year, and he'll probably be celebrated. But right now, I mean, this is what they have. They made a decision of what they wanted to bring in. Ayton has been a disappointment defensively as their center, and they hadn't really done anything to right that area where they can be better defensively. So this is where the Lakers are. So I'm not going to put LeBron on the bench. I need my best players on the court at the end of the game, and it's what it is. You this is what you knew what they had. Just, I mean, you can't do that because you don't have anybody to replace him. That's my reasoning in regards to keeping LeBron James on the court.
I wanted to let me take just in regard to LeBron about a very slight detour about his relationship with the Lakers, because you mentioned James. Well, he might not be there next year. Part of the problem is why Jenny Buss isn't a LeBron James fan, and no one mentions this. Jenny Buss's significant other for a lot of years, who she's still reportedly close with, is Phil Jackson. LeBron James couldn't stand Phil Jackson. It was known. He went public with it before. And believe me, behind the scenes, they probably had a discussion, Jenny Buss, who talks to Phil Jackson about LeBron, and Phil didn't probably say the nicest things about LeBron, who's been very critical of him. So that probably has Jenny Buss somewhat aggressive towards LeBron, not having the same warm feeling towards him that she would have had towards Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, etc. Why LeBron is very expendable. He's not considered part of the Laker family. Keep in mind, who was arguably, and I could say the greatest icon in Laker history, and we're going back to old generations, maybe Jerry West, okay? Partly because he's white. Let's be honest about it. He shouldn't be the logo of the league. It should be the big O Oscar Robertson was a better player. That's an area of racism again. I mean, why is Jerry West the logo? I just said the reason why. That's part of the racism that goes on. And Jerry West was a great guy, by the way. A great GM. I mean, a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe great as a GM than he was as a player. He was arguably the greatest GM in NBA history. I mean, it's a phenomenal guy, but he shouldn't be the logo. But Jerry West and Phil Jackson didn't see eye to eye. They were very adversarial towards one another. See, Jerry West wasn't part of the Laker family anymore because Jenny Buss kind of moved him out that road, okay? And that's what's happening with LeBron. First chance they have to move him out, they'll move him out because LeBron commands power. Because he's commanded power his whole career. But the old saying, what goes around comes around, or vice versa. Now that LeBron is merely no more than a very good player. He's a very good player, but he's no longer iconic at this stage currently as a player. He's not going to command the same power. He won't be able to call the same shots because they won't put up with it.
So just what you said about, and I'll let you go, B. Just what you said about, what is it? What you said in regards to Jenny Buss and her relationship with Phil Jackson and LeBron James and Jerry West. This is precisely why there's an old adage: you don't crap where you eat. So you just you really should.
I never heard of that adage. What are you talking about?
It's not. It was the word is not crap. It's the other word.
Yeah.
I'm being nice for.
I didn't hear that one either, but okay.
Well, yes. Well, my point is like, okay, you don't get in relationships involved while you're working with these same people because emotions are involved.
That's what Jerry West said. He was critical of that.
Of course, it just makes sense. So I'm just not saying that, we got to hold these people culpable of their actions, meaning Jenny Buss and Phil Jackson. And in regards to Phil Jackson not liking LeBron James, I mean, don't open your mouth and saying, calling people in their crew's posse. Posse is code word. it's code to other people. It's code word for other language. So, I mean, that's, of course, I'm not going to like you if that's how you're coming at me. LeBron James, don't get me wrong. He got a lot of attention and he was able to do everything early in his career in Cleveland to do all, they allowed him to do a lot of things that you probably wouldn't do. Any other superstar probably wouldn't get.
Yeah, I hear you, Jim. Sometimes people don't understand because of cultures. They use a word like posse. And I'm not a Phil Jackson fan. I don't like Phil Jackson. The type of guy he is and all. But sometimes, Phil Jackson using the word posse is there in undertone, in a culture type way that it's insulting. It's just like a word, like you're watching old Western and you hear the word posse all the time. I'm not sure.
I myself as an older
any disrespect.
I know. I get you. Someone that's much younger than you, Jack. You know where posse has been in the terms you probably were like young enough when they were saying saying the word posse. Yes, mm-hmm. I'm just joking with you, Jack. But with that said, I just think the younger people, like you said, don't probably misconstrue where he was coming from. But again, at the same time, even if he wasn't coming from that direction, I think, like you said, they didn't like each other, and he was taking shots at LeBron in regards to what he was doing on the court.
Jeff Van Gundy saying about Michael Jordan being a con man. Now that I can understand being a bit insulting. And then you call someone a con man. But it's a little different. If you say someone is conning someone else, there's a difference between saying you're conning them as opposed to calling them a con man. If you call them a con man, that's insulting. But conning them, it can be taken as a compliment in a way.
I mean, all this is all well and good, and all these extra, Phil Jackson and the bus lady. I just it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's irrelevant, but it's kind of getting away from the point of the question, though. The point of the question is, do you take him out late in the games because his liability? And James, you had a great point, because who are they going to put in there? They don't have anybody that's going to is such a defensive genius that they're going to get out, guaranteed stops. You got to, and to Jack's point, and to what we were talking about earlier, Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. So you got to have your best players out there playing to win the game. So James shouldn't come off there because they got nobody else that's, dependable on defense to check anybody. And James is like, even if he's at 50, 65%, he's still a better person to have out on the floor than anybody else that they got on the bench. So what's the point? I mean, you can't put them on a bench late in the games because they don't have anybody to do anything like that. So yeah, keep them out there. You're playing to win a game. I mean, it costs him sometimes, but he's 41 years old. That's just the point. I mean, dude's not going to be moving like he used to be moving. And keep LeBron on the floor because you got nobody else to be out there on defense. You got nobody else. And, LeBron, that's a funny thing. But anyway. But, yeah. I think we might have time for this last one. Yeah. Got to make it quick, though. Who would you rather have on your team if you could only pick one? Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani? Shohei Ohtani. We'll go with Jack on this one because Aaron Jones is Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge, yeah, I can't go against Aaron Judge. I mean, being a Yankees fan, come on, I'd never be able to live it down. I would be like Tom Brady saying he doesn't have like a horse in the race. So whatever he said, in regard to the Super Bowl beforehand, and then everyone got on him. Look, Aaron Judge is a better hitter than Ohtani. I mean, James is a number guy. Compare the numbers. Ohtani is great. Now, the argument for Ohtani is going to be, well, he pitches and Judge doesn't. Ohtani's hardly pitched. He's hardly pitched. He hasn't been an impact pitcher for the Dodgers. I mean, he's a potential weapon that they can use, but he hasn't been a mainstay on their pitching staff. Aaron Judge plays the field. Ohtani's a DH. Aaron Judge not only plays the field, he's a good defender, very good defender in the outfield. He plays right field, he plays center field, and he plays them both well. And Ohtani just DHs. So who would I rather have on my team from performance on the field? It's Aaron Judge. And I also feel Aaron Judge is caught up to Ohtani maybe as a box office draw. Let's say there's a baseball game going on. James is visiting New Orleans, who doesn't have a baseball franchise. And one of the two teams has to be in town, the Yankees or the Dodgers. James would immediately think of Judge and Ohtani on their respective teams. Who doesn't want to see Aaron Judge take his swings? He's more entertaining swinging the bat than Ohtani. I know Ohtani is this big draw, so on. But when Aaron Judge is at bat, if you're called for dinner, and I'm going to close this, both of them are at bat. You have your choice, Judge or Ohtani, and someone is called that dinner's ready, and they say, hold on, I just want to see the batter be finished hitting. I mean, it's easier to walk away if Ohtani's at bat than if Judge is at bat. Okay, I'll close with that.
You just closed the door, man, with I don't know, with I can't even explain that. Because I would at least split. There's no way I'm leaving for neither one of them. If you gave that example, like you just said, I'm not leaving for neither player because they both have been elite. I would give you, like you said, I'm a numbers guy. The average in OBS has been in Aaron Judge's way. He's been a slugger, a home run hitter, man. He's got 368 total, and he's only 33. He's got four All-Stars and what, 3 MVPs. Impressive. And like you said, elite defender. he's considered an elite defender, and yet he hasn't won. He's been a finalist in Gold Gloves twice, in 17 and 18. So I mean, it tells you what he is on the right side. Like you say, he can play center as well. But come on, man. And you poo-pooed on Otani's pitching and called him at a DH, but again, he 50 and 50. I mean, that historic run in 24 when he hit 50 plus home runs and stole the bases over 50 times. That's who's doing that. I mean, I get it. He's a DH, but
And
man,
a DH role.
yeah, but in a DH role that allowed his team to get the 2 championships. Aaron Judge had his time to get there. What happened? They didn't. I mean, and who they play? They head up. Who they play? Jack?
Well, you're talking about the World Series, but Ohtani struggled in that World Series. He was hurt, but he struggled. I mean, too.
Fair enough. But okay, last season, Ohtani as a pitcher. First of all, let's give Ohtani his credit. In 2022, he was a top 4 finalist for Cy Young. So as an Angel, and so to get that and still be great on both sides, man, is highly impressive. You can't sneeze at that. And I don't think he was a DH at that time either. So when he was with the Angels, so it's just again the skill level right there. And we're pulling hairs here. I think both these guys are extremely great players at their respective positions and what they do. But the edge I got to give to Ohtani because of the 2 championships back to back. Not just one, but they got 2. They got 2 back to back. And what he did in the playoffs as a pitcher, I'm gonna say this and done. And in the playoffs, he was elite. He was elite as a pitcher. And so I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm just gonna go with Ohtani.
He didn't pitch that much in the playoffs.
When he started, I don't know. He
struggled against Toronto in the World Series.
Not Toronto. It was before Toronto. It was a series before Toronto. I forgot who they played, but
okay. Oh yeah, we have to make this quick for Brian. But this isn't the NBA where one guy, he won a championship, the other didn't.
No.
You have a much better chance of making an impact in the NBA. But let's hear Brian's viewpoint.
No, I mean, just it's 1A and 1B either way around. And to your point, I'm not getting up if both of those teams are playing against each other and Aaron Judge and Ohtani are up. I'm watching both of them. Whether they're I'd watch the pitching matchup between Ohtani and Aaron Judge. It's just that they're both scintillating when they play. When they're up the bat, when they're pitching. Well, when Ohtani's pitching, they're guys that have come up in the clutch, and they've done it so many times, both of them, and it's just exciting to see. That's probably why a lot of people want to always see a Dodgers or in a New York Yankees World Series because of that effect right there. Those 2 guys are like the best baseball players, in a league. So why wouldn't you? I just can't put one over the other because Aaron Judge has some qualities that Ohtani doesn't have, but Ohtani has some qualities that Aaron Judge doesn't have. And I know you're an Aaron Judge guy, Jack, and I respect you for that because that's your guy for the Yankees. Hey, I would be like that too if I had a guy I could cheer for like that. But it's just both of them are 1A, 1B, and in no particular order either. All right, Rich. And
like having Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson on the court. They're different players, but they both present great things respectively for their teams. Come on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jordan's better than Magic Johnson, but that's another debate.
He was, but Showtime. When Showtime was in their prime, there was nobody beating them, including Jordan and his Chicago Bears, the Bulls.
Yeah, you have a Magic Bird debate that could go either way, but Michael Jordan's that little edge you got to give over both of those guys.
On that note, we will have to depart. Great debate, guys. We'll see you next Saturday at 8:00. Everybody have a great day. Peace out.